Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Archetypal Radio. I'm your host, Michael Ebbinghaus. It's a very hot summer here in Austin. It's going to be one of the hottest that we've seen in some time. We're heading into the hottest week of this year, and there are certainly more that will be coming. The summer it's a time of very high energy in this regard. We're getting a lot of solar energy raining down on us. It tends to boil out all of the places that we're not being truthful to ourselves, where we're deceiving ourselves in the interest of placation and the interest of maintaining a status quo within our own lives, within our communities, et cetera, et cetera. And is instead asking us to boil in this process, to stew and become something new as we head into the fall and the summer, or the winter, rather. How the two are inextricably entwined. And so I wanted to give a perspective that I don't think is often given. And I believe that there will be reactions from other sides and there will be anger. And I've come to realize that I don't have to really worry about that, because people are going to react in whichever ways they're going to react, and I can't take it personally. None of us can take it personally. That's why it's agreement number 2, Don Miguel Ruiz. Thank you. Don Miguel Ruiz, the world's grandfather. Don't take it personally. And so I'm going to tell a story, if you will. And I think that we can just let it be that. It can just be a story. I'm not holding the scepter of truth. I have my particular lens, my particular time, my particular perspective, yada, yada, yada. But I imagine that this lens will resonate with a fair amount of you. And I imagine it'll resonate with any interested seeker, no matter how they identify, because that's really, in the end, what it's all about. Is what are we getting bound up in all of these identifications for? What, that we're Black, that we're white, that I'm a man, that she's a woman, that they're non-binary, that blah, 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 blah. We're all welcome here. I understand. It's hard to find a place to find credence for yourself. And I'm sorry. But I accept you, and you are free to be the wackiest, weirdest, wildest person that you are. But there are more pressing matters than the subject of our identity, of our sexuality, and how it's foreclosed upon, because there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of freedom. And perhaps that's just my lens of being in Austin, where it feels like everyone is welcome. And maybe that's a lens of what the world could be. I think it is. And in order for the container of Austin, beautiful as it is, as flawed as it is, because everything is always deeply flawed, in addition to its magnificence. In order to bring that to a fuller realization, we have to set some things aside and find solace in the people like myself and the community members that are there with you, that support you and just love you no matter what your foibles are, and are supporting you as we all move towards something that we would really like to live in. And this is the subject of my story today. I would like to have you imagine, if you will, maybe settle down the eyes, wherever you are, and just hear this story resonate. It's the story of a group of people who are facing immense tyranny and crushing oppression from without. Their nation, their people are being used and exploited. And this group of people is in a position to mobilize the energies of a fledgling nation towards finding a new way, towards breaking from an established order and some of the safeties that that guarantees. Yet they are faced with opposition within. They are torn between the groups of people that want to go their own way, that want to embark on a new mission. And then there are the groups of people who still cling to aspects of the established order, even if it asks us to put aside our humanness and to bear the brunt, to take a great deal of the burden and place it upon a group of people who are already giving so much and from whom so much has been taken. And they know that in order to embark on this new mission, for even the hope of something better, that they are going to have to make a decision in the moment and go one way or the other. And you know, it's interesting, as far as I can tell in my own heart, whatever the reasons were for establishing this nation, because this is, of course, the story of our nation. What exactly it was that we were escaping, it's hard to know, because it feels in the end that those forces are still winning, and they were always part and parcel of the whole game. Namely, that there is still the outside world to contend with. No matter how much we wake up and realize our own godness, no matter how much we wake up and realize that we are the creators of our reality and that the world reflects our collective voice and vision and psyche, there still remains the matter of those that do not recognize this, and that are so convinced by their separateness, by their identification, that they will exercise the powers of the world to continue the game of dominance, continue the game of slavery, continue the game of domineering nature and exploiting her for our needs and never asking what hers might be. Because what our founding fathers had to contend with was, of course, economic and political forces outside of them, and the split that this created within our own nation. Those that were identified and saw no problem with subjugating a group of people to hard labor and exploiting them, not asking them what they need and how they might fit in to the broader order, and having to make that compromise. And my God, what a compromise. Hope of something better, but the hope of something better entails this difficult decision to continue a way of life, knowing perhaps that one day it might be different. But for now, this is where it must be, and this is where the matter of perspective, I feel, is so important. We're coming up on almost 250 years. Almost 250 years. Am I doing the math right? Let me check real quick. Yeah. 250 years of this great experiment that we call America. And within less than a century, those people that our founding fathers knew they were going to have to, let me back up a moment. The choice that our forefathers made to continue that legacy and continue that tradition in the pursuit of the hope of something better. And within a century, we're able to make a pivotal change to say that this is no longer tenable. We cannot continue to deny our own humanity and the humanity of the people that are enslaved. And so there was a great conflict. Known as a civil war. And you know, it's interesting. I've wondered myself, is that something that we'll have to contend with in our day and era? Will we have to heal this divide in our own nation through war and conflict with ourselves? And the plain fact of the matter is that we do not have that luxury anymore. We do not have that luxury to be at war with ourselves. And I feel I want to speak to my own experience because it is so indicative of all of this. I've been at war with myself for many years, and it's time for me to put that to rest in the service of something greater. It doesn't mean that the conflict goes away. It doesn't mean that we ignore it. It doesn't mean that we repress it. However, everything that we know says that any differences between us are resolved through the pursuit of a common goal. And I feel that we all have a common goal of being in a place that looks like the tapestry behind me and living in a community there and watching our children grow and flourish, becoming who they are, free of what we even might want for them, our own traditions that we don't want to let go of. We can, of course, apply this to our own parents, the people that raised us, to whom the parents who are literally the world and our psyche from the beginning. They are our world. They are our security. Mother and father. And this is the reality. And we can take the same perspective that we do with the parents of our nation, with the fathers of our nation, and the forgotten mothers of our nation who supported those men in silence. And now we get to all do that together, regardless of what our genitals are, regardless of what our physiology is, accepting the difference between our bodies, our masculine and feminine identities, and recognizing that they are not us. And then working from that place, moving forward. So we're going to take that perspective with our parents. And if you haven't taken this perspective with your parents, let this one sink in. Because, wow, aren't our parents just fucking deeply flawed human beings? Like we are. And imagine being responsible for your life, for the life of an infant, the life of a young child, and the life of a struggling young adult, and the life of a still struggling, somewhat older adult that still hasn't figured it out. All the while contending with their own matters of unconsciousness and consciousness, contending with their own matters of having been beaten, of having been abused, of having been forgotten, neglected, passed over for drugs, passed over for partners, passed over for whatever reason other than you make my life hard. I'm speaking to you, people who have had parents that could not be there. I'm speaking to the people whose parents stuck around in their best capacity and gave to you all of the things that they did not have the time or capacity or whatever through their own humanness reconcile. Let's give it to you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me life. Thank you for being there in whichever way you could be. And if they weren't there, thank you to the people that stuck around. Thank you to those that recognized that I was worth nourishing. That's worth attending to. So that I could one day be a light in this world and do the same. So let's take that perspective, not forgetting that there was an ease and a grace too, in all the decisions that were made, and all the things that were overlooked, and all of the people to whom it was passed to bear the burden. Because what other choice is there? To be a victim of our circumstances? The path forward entails fully meeting and appreciating all of the pain, all of the suffering that we denied in the present moment, held on to for a time when it could be felt and processed. And through our being, doing our very best, holding out our hand, but not letting it be pulled, sucked down into the cacophony of disorder, dismay, despair, and denial of our power. It all happened to us. If you're hearing these moments, if you're hearing these words now in this moment, whatever has happened to you, whatever victim of circumstance you have been, the ways in which you have given your power away. Now is the time to reclaim it and do the hard work and perfect work of reclaiming, restoring, and coming into union with the whole world, and recognizing the hurt and the others that inflict. There's a really beautiful, I want to do a deeper exploration of this film at some point, but the movie Arrival by Denis Villeneuve. The reason why this piece of art sticks out in my psyche as the highest thing, as the most beautiful expression of human creativity, is that it shows us what the solution is. Literally, the movie Arrival, as strange as that might sound to some of you, is the answer. And it's obviously not that simple. But what the protagonist, Louise Banks, does in that film is learn to communicate with something that she cannot communicate with, that is totally alien and other. And we all have these elements inside of us. The reason why it is an extraterrestrial force in this film from some galaxy far, far away, and you'll notice that the author, Ted Chiang, took great care in not really elaborating on where they were from. He didn't buy into that story. Because in the end, we were all in it together. And this magnificent force, these creatures that have understanding beyond what we can even comprehend, for whom gravity is something that they can manipulate, and time, something they can travel through. They need our help at some time in the future, and they're here to establish an order, to establish coherence, if you will. And they do that through Dr. Louise Banks, a linguist. And through coming to know this ineffable other, is able to transcend time and space. You see her dreams start to fold in with reality, and she has difficulty establishing where she is because this is the condition. Where are we? What are we doing here? Why are we so at war? Why do people, how can we get so consumed in our own power games that we forget that it can look like this? But it's a reflection of our own psyche and our own fear. Yeah, I will take a deeper exploration. It's not what I'm capable of doing right now. Wouldn't do it quite justice, but through coming to know this ineffable other, the heptapods, the aliens, whatever you want to call them, this fucking intangible mystery. Because rest assured, it is within you. And the boundaries that we draw are all arbitrary. It's not out there. There is no out there in here. We're all doing it. We're all exercising consciousness as it unfolds and as it knows itself through this form capable of taking that power. And so what she has to do is take a leap of faith. This is something that I feel like I'm doing because I don't know where my ground is right now. I don't know where I'm going with any of this. I don't know what the future holds or how this radio show will end. I'm just kind of letting it be and letting that be beautiful. She takes this huge leap of faith at the end of the film. Fucking spoilers if you haven't seen it. I'm sorry. If you haven't seen the movie and you're worried about spoilers, stop now, go see it, and then continue. But she makes a phone call to the general. She gets a direct line through the unconscious. She's able to see the future. She gets a direct line through the unconscious to the General Jiang of China, who is the great distrusting element of all of this whole us versus them scenario in the first contact scenario, as we'll call it. This could easily be one of our own generals. But Ted Chiang, I think, did something beautiful with making it his own, recognizing the will of the Chinese to dominate. And through this direct communication, through this miracle that occurs, something that she has no idea because it's just something that's coming to her from the future. She doesn't understand. It's all tied up. But these things can all happen. We don't know it. It's not concrete. It never will be until we arrive at that moment. In fact, the scene is so beautifully done. Her and the general are at a banquet celebrating world peace after all of this has happened. And she's unaware that she even made the phone call. Even as we're taken to the point in time where she is speaking Mandarin, speaking the last words of his wife to him, and revealing to him that they are interconnected in a way that he could never comprehend, but could fully experience in that moment. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and whatever you choose to define yourself as, ladies, gentlemen, and other, I don't know. We haven't established that one yet. Maybe we'll get there. Realizing that we are infinitely interconnected in that way, that there are no secrets, that we are all living this out. That is the message of that movie. And that's something that I really hope to explore later on in a more detailed and coherent form, because god damn did Ted Chiang and Dallas Villanueva and all of the people involved with that project pull together something extraordinary that just resonates with my heart, makes me cry every time, because I know that that is the way forward. And I wonder what people like Vladimir Putin think of a film like that. I don't know. I hope to put myself in a position to be able to have that here. I really do. Because all this worldly power means nothing. It means nothing. All these things that we're afraid of, when we're laying on our deathbed, if we get that luxury and we are confronting the mystery, because it will happen. There's nothing mysterious about that. It will happen. You, dear listener, are going to come face to face with your own mortality. At some point, everything you know will vanish, and there will be nothing left except you, except the singular awareness that pervades us all, that unites man, woman, heptapod. None of us know where this is going. But the truth is that being at conflict with ourselves, A, is a luxury, and B, is a way to perpetuate. Because I've heard all the stories. I've taken as many different perspectives as I can. And the best way forward is to acknowledge that everyone was doing their best. Whether it was Thomas Jefferson writing the Declaration of Independence while he was screwing his slaves, whether it's the parent that chose heroin or cocaine or methamphetamine, or a lover, or a career, or something over us. What more can you ask of them? Let us take our discerning eye and be a voice to ourselves and come together and be a voice of compassion and welcome. There is a way. There is an order, and I don't know what it is. But I believe that it is beautiful. And I believe that it will require ruthfully examining, ruthlessly, which one? I'm not sure. Ruthlessly examining what it is that we value and why we value it. Where do we move towards? What brings us into harmony with ourselves, with each other, with nature, with the planet, with warring nations, with domineering generals, with people so enamored with their position, thinking that that gives them authority. Do you realize? Do you realize what a trap that is? Sure, maybe they voice it off to someone else. Maybe they say, oh, but my family will be taken care of from what I've done. Will they? If it's been done in injustice, I don't condone it, but our humanity tends to turn towards revenge. And when a voice is silenced for too long, it raises in riot. And it will tear down nations within ourselves. It'll tear down our body. It'll tear down our soul. It will destroy our relationships. It will form cancer. It will form these strange things and it'll kill us. And we'll meet face to face with that thing and it'll say, I've tried to get your attention for so long. This is what it took for you to acknowledge me. So all is welcome. All the anger, all of the hatred, all of the joy, all of the magnificence. Let's let it in. And not assail the terrified humans, like General Chiang in this hypothetical sense, but the very real people whom he represents, who are absolutely terrified and have had to build their sandcastles believing that they are real just to feel safe. Because that wave of death is coming. The fact that the universe, that this physical experience, that we can even comprehend or predict that it goes through a cycle like this every trillion years or so, the fact that it is that stable is a miracle. We should be looking at the magnificent order of that. We should be looking at the magnificent order of that and seeing all of the little cycles that we go through within our own lives, in our own relationships, within our communities, within our nations, within our states. Moving forward, I don't know the way. I don't know the way. I have my particular perspective and I have my particular voice. I haven't used it in the way that I'm capable. I haven't used it to defend the littleness inside me. I haven't used it to defend the powerless. Even as I, in my own humble way, am trying to gain footing in this colossal construct of humanity. Because I do have a vision. I believe it's a vision we share of heaven being on earth. And until we recognize that that is ipso facto the case, and that all we have to do is reconcile with that and hold space, take personal responsibility, and remind others of their responsibility and their power. That's all we can do. And that is heaven on earth, the opportunity to do that. And it can be available to more and more and more and more. If we confront the high chair tyrant within those that run the world, the men and the women, because it is not endemic to man. It's not endemic to the penis. It's not endemic to the male. It's endemic to consciousness itself. Ladies, your power is magnificent. And you can wield it in as destructive or constructive a way as you make it. But that's all I really have to say this evening, y'all. It's beautiful and wonderful to share this time with all of you. I hope to do it more because I recognize that this is truly what's important, is sharing a voice and having a community. And the lengths that I've gone to take different perspectives, acknowledge where I cling to my own, and just take in the vast panoply of knowledge and tradition and beauty and nature and wonder and word and breath. Oh my God. I'm not saying that you should just believe in me and follow me. I'm saying that you should tune into your own experience. See what comes up for you. Does it aspire you to greater power, or does it want to make you give it to those to whom you feel have wronged you? And if there is an irreverence or an irresonance, I'm still fucking learning. We all are. And other than that, I have nothing to ask. Well, do I have things to ask? If you feel so called, help support me in this mission. If this resonates with you, support in whatever way that you can. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Instagram, Michael Ebbinghaus. Go to my website, austinsoulcoach.com. See the things that I've written there. I write a lot. I love writing. It's beautiful, deeply flawed, like all of us. Reach out to me. I'm not at the point where I can't contend with that. If you feel called to make a donation to support me in that mission that way, financially, which I could certainly use help with. Folks, let me tell you, it's hard out here, and I've invested quite a lot in trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. So if you feel called, please offer your whatever you can, whether it's a like, whether it's a subscribe, whether it's saying, hey, this guy that I listened to had something really deeply profound to say, and give it a listen. Be vulnerable for me. And thank you to all the people for whom, me sitting here in this place is possible. Thank you to the places that do let me work for a wage, that see that value. Thank you to Alive Water for providing the water that I'm drinking, and for whom is also paying me a wage. Thank you. Thank you to my clients who trust me. Anyone else? Mom and Dad, thanks. Thanks for bringing me in. Thank you to my community, my friends. There's so many of you. I could never, my life and my joy when I'm with you. I know to my friends that is more than enough. You know who you are. Anyway, y'all, that wraps up this edition of the Austin Soul Coach podcast. That's not it, is it? That wraps up this edition of Archetypal Radio. Joining me on the podcast in the coming week will be Shirley DeVere. I'm very excited to speak with her. We've been planning this conversation for some time, and I actually need to double check, perhaps, and just make sure, but I'm confident that we'll be speaking later on this week. She is a psychotherapist, licensed marriage and family therapist, studying somatic psychology, getting her doctorate there in somatic psychology at the California Institute of Integral Studies, where I did my training. She is a mother and a therapist of many, many years, and we'll be exploring the role of physical touch and healing, and how we as therapists and healers can take very careful consideration in applying this much needed medicine and taking all of the necessary precautions and conversations necessary to have a generative and healing experience through touch. So we'll be discussing that later on. I hope you tune in. Thank you for tuning in today. And I love you all so very much. Take care. Bye.